Why would you spend time listening to the Talking Heads break down the CFP when you can listen to two high school football coaches break down the college football playoff while you're getting ready for these four outstanding football games to be played? Super excited to have good friend and what I consider coaching legend, Coach Chip, on the show to break down the college football playoff. I'm really excited for this episode. We'll do a little chatting about maybe the structure of it, and then we'll break down some of the games as well. But before we get into that, just want to take a moment to remind everybody the Blue and Gold Gridiron Show is brought to you by School Funder. School Funder, the only online fundraising company in America that lets you keep all of the money your team raises. You would never give away 20% of the wins your team earns. Why do coaches all across the country willingly give away 20% of their proceeds in fundraising? Call the good people at School Funder at schoolfundr.org and let them know the Blue and Gold Gridiron Show sent you, as it'll help the show. While you're helping the show, stop right now, push subscribe, absolutely free, does nothing to you. All it does is get you a ton of good free content out there. So please do that right now. All right, Coach, like I said, we have become fast friends, and I always enjoy getting the chance to talk to you, to talk ball with you, and glean from your experience. So college football playoff, a lot of discussion on the group of five, whether they're deserving, Notre Dame taking their ball and going home, so to speak. All sorts of stuff in there. College football in general, where the coaches are leaving as they're getting ready to compete for a national championship. Absolutely wild to me. It's, as Kenny Dillingham has said, the wild, wild west out there, and it was very touch and go there for a while with the thing for Michigan. I personally think Coach Dillingham was playing them like a fiddle the entire time to gain more resources for ASU. I don't really believe he had any intention of going to Michigan, but it's crazy what's going on in this college football world, and I'd love to get your thoughts on the college football playoff and just anything else in general, Coach.
Well, I'm a romantic at heart, Cody, and by the way, good to see you again too. And yes, well, I do consider you a friend. I'm a romantic at heart, and I was hoping that Kenny would stay at ASU and Lane would stay at Ole Miss. You know, and really and truly, I think what got Lane wasn't the money for him; it was that guaranteed coffer for NIL. And I agree with you. I think Dillingham is he's an Arizona State lifer. If he ever leaves there, it will probably be for the NFL. But I hope he's in his 40s when he does it, and he has a good long run there in Tempe. I remember I told you, because I got a friend that's in with these people, and you said that you thought he would stay, and I said, well, I ain't saying Kenny's serious, but I'm telling you, Michigan is serious about Kenny. It's one of those deals where two people are dating, and one's a little bit more in love than the other one is. But they were definitely, according to my friend, who, like I said, he tells me things I can't tell, and he tells me things I can't tell, but I can't tell where they came from. But he was in on it, and he's called all the other ones. He called the Matt Campbell one too, like a week before it happened at Penn State.
That one was wild because you were sitting there going, I don't know what they were recruiting. They were like 150th or some craziness. And you're going, how are they going to pull this out of the fire? I just had a discussion with somebody on Twitter about ASU talking about their basketball coach. Bobby Hurley's been there 11 years, Why haven't they got rid of him? Well, he's made 3 tournaments. Should have been 4 if the 2021 doesn't get canceled. Nah, I'm looking at the last 40 years of Arizona State coaches, and that's better than anybody's gone. If you don't have somebody better in mind that you know you're going to get, it seems a little risky to go out there and just fire your coach, but it happens all the time now.
Well, let's go into that before we get into the preview. You want to fire your coach, fire your coach. This is the number when you said we'll talk about other things like the state of college football. They've got to fix the calendar, Cody. Everybody's mad at Lane Kiffin. I'm not mad at Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin and those poor kids at Ole Miss never should have been put in that position. LSU should not have been allowed to talk to him. Now, if we're going to make college football professional football, which it is, then we're going to have to use some professional football league rules, like the no tampering. You will notice coaches are getting fired now in the NFL. They're not going to go shopping on a Super Bowl team, on a team in the playoffs, because they can't talk to them, because it hurts the integrity of the game, the integrity of the league. And this is hurting the integrity of college football. The fact that all this went down. Think about this. I'm watching the Tulane Ole Miss game, and I'm not the smartest knife in the drawer. And I tell people I'm kind of like Forrest Gump. I ain't dumb, but I'm a little slow. And it dawned on me. I said, what if Sumrall had taken the Ole Miss job instead of the Florida job? You would have him coaching against the team he's about to go to. You follow me?
You just blew my mind right there, Coach.
There's nothing to prevent it.
And that's 100% possible. That's completely feasible that could have happened. That is wild.
So they've got to fix it. There ought to be no portal until the season is completely over. Okay? There ought to be no coaches changing jobs until the season is over. It shouldn't have been Texas A&M. You cannot tell me in a 10-3 ball game, Miami and Texas A&M, and you and I both know at that level, it's kind of like at our level, when you get into the playoffs, the deeper you get, the more games are won in the margins. Well, you're talking Division I football with multi-billion-dollar rosters, Miami and A&M, playing a 7-point game. That game was won in the margins. Little things that the average fan couldn't see. Little things that guys like us wouldn't see without breaking down the film are what wins games like that. You can't tell me that A&M's coordinators weren't distracted enough that losing in the margins is what happened. Because both those guys, they're out the door. They're not in A&M anymore. They were gone Sunday morning, Hoss.
And that's rampant in the games we're going to break down today.
Absolutely.
So that's something that I'm really interested in discussing, that part of it too. Again, Coach, I'm still not over. It is completely feasible that he could have gotten the Ole Miss job. That's not anything wild.
His name was mentioned
there, and there is nothing to prevent him coaching against the school he's about to go to. I mean, obviously, you figure at that point, Tulane steps in and says, "Hey, you're out of here, man." But he's taking guys with him, I'm sure, too. So the thing that I don't understand is everybody, and this would upset me a little bit, is everybody, get rid of the bowl games now, blah, blah, blah. If the guys are getting paid, and apparently there's so much I've seen so many guys talk about there is no tampering because no one gets called on it. But I would think it'd be easier to get these guys to play in a bowl game because you say, hey, if there's a contract and you say, we're paying you, part of your money is you're finishing out the season, you are playing in this bowl game, unless you're going to the NFL. If you're opting out because of your, going to the NFL, that's one thing. But if you're opting out because you're entering the portal or whatever, I think there should be a little bit of financial money taken back in that instance. But it doesn't happen that way. I heard the guy at UTSA say, we're going to be short 20 guys for our bowl game. And it upsets me because I remember the old commercials of the most wonderful week of the year ESPN did, and now it's become 2-3 weeks. I loved bowl season.
Whole week.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
Robert
Goulet singing, "It's the most wonderful time of the year." And I'm speaking in tongues, brother. I'm going like, yes, sir. This is it. And now, I guess what happened Saturday, 11 hours of high-quality football. Oh, excuse me, I forgot those two group of 5 teams played. All right, so there was a little window.
There was still good games going on during that. They were just other channels. And we had a guy in the D3 semifinals at Wisconsin River Falls that they won 48-41 and had like 600-something yards of offense, and that was so excited to watch. Shout out to Jake Hilton playing the Stag Bowl for the D3 National Championship here in early January.
I grew up where the Stag Bowl used to be played. Phoenix City, Alabama. And look it up. the Stag Bowl was there all through the 70s into the 80s. I saw Billy White Shoes Johnson play in the Stag Bowl in the early 70s.
That is outstanding. Like I said, it was a good week for Badger alumni with Jake Hilton getting advanced into the Stag Bowl. We got Kean McKelvey, who's playing at USC. Like I've told you this story, he was just a student there. They were looking for somebody. He's ended up staying on the roster. Just one of my favorite all-time players, an absolute stud for us. Uriah Tenet, who was our quarterback last year, he was in the top 10 SportsCenter plays at New Mexico, and he's had a great start to his career at New Mexico. We had another athlete be the track athlete of the week in the indoor track season at Wagner High School. So always fun following your guys after. Nothing like you have, Coach. I know you've coached a bunch of multiple guys in the NFL. Haven't gotten there yet, but it is super exciting to see your guys have success to the next level, whatever it may be in.
Yeah, I look every weekend to see if the Cowboys are going to be on TV so I can record it. I'm not going to sit there and watch the whole thing, but I'll go back and go through it. And thankfully, on social media, anytime he makes a play, Triquez Bridges of Lynette, Alabama, he gets all over social media. All the Lynette people post it, so I know exactly where to go to in the game after the game is over to go see Triquez make his play. You know, it's pretty cool. I tell you a funny Triquez story. It has to do with him. And I put it on social media. I don't know if you saw it or not. Maybe our viewers and listeners didn't. When Triquez was a junior, Mario Cristobal was the head coach all the way out in Oregon. Now, y'all, we are in East Alabama. I live in West Georgia. I coached in East Alabama. And he flew into Atlanta, Mario Cristobal, came down to Lynette. And, of course, us being in Alabama, he did his homework to a degree. He knew Alabama was on Central Time. Lynette's not. Lynette's on Eastern Time. We're literally on the river, and because it's an old mill town, the mills were owned by companies out of Georgia. Lynette, Alabama is on Eastern Time. Even though the mills are gone, they stay on Eastern Time. There's 3 Alabama cities on Eastern Time: Lynette, Valley, and the one I just mentioned, Phoenix City, just down the river. All for the same reason, mills. So the time got messed up. So I taught 3 classes a day and then had weightlifting in the afternoon, the football class. And so I get a call on the intercom, Coach Siegel, Coach Cristobal is here to see you. And I said, well, I'll send somebody up to get him. So he comes in. I forget he had a young guy with him. They always travel with another person. And I said, Coach, you're a little early. I'm sorry, we're on Eastern Time. He went, yeah. He said, that's all right. I'll just sit here. He's bigger than me. He's thicker than me.
He's a big dude.
And I said, you can, and the other guy was little. And I said, you can sit at my desk, Coach. So he sat at my desk, and I continued lecturing my American government lecture. And my clicker quit working. So Mario Cristobal is sitting at my desk, and when I'll say next slide, click, Mario was advancing my PowerPoint, Cody.
That story's worth its weight in gold right there too, Coach. I'm telling you what.
So I was pulling for the Hurricanes. I was pulling for Mario because I tell people, how can I go against my old teacher's aide?
Absolutely.
But anyway, Triquez ended up signing with Oregon, and when Lanning, he ended up signing with Oregon, then ended up transferring to Florida. And some of y'all may remember last year when the kid from Florida got the targeting call because he hit the guy in the butt. He literally came up on a pass to the flat and came in, but his helmet, he led with his helmet, hit him right in the butt, and they threw him out of the game for hitting the guy in the butt. But
we don't like to talk about targeting at Arizona State. We're still a little miffed, I guess, about the situation there with Texas last year.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. Well, y'all had one of the best targeters, though, ever. Who was that linebacker y'all had that was so daggum good? And he was kind of a head case. He went and played for the Bengals.
Oh, Vontaze Burfict.
Oh, my God.
Vontaze Burfict played for
missile.
Todd Graham Dennis Erickson. He left before Todd Graham got there. Graham was a little bit of a disciplinarian, and Coach Erickson, all my interactions with him, unbelievable. Guy remembers everybody's name, really nice guy, but as I believe was on the You documentary, when Jimmy left, it was kind of like the substitute teacher running the class with Coach Harris. And you can't argue his success. There's different ways to do things, but Vontez was he was a different cat, but a heck of a football player, definitely.
He sure was. He was, like I said, he was a heat-seeking missile. The closest thing we had to him down here would have been Reuben Foster. Had played at Alabama and then for the 49ers, but Burke, man, he couldn't survive the way the rules are written now.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, he'd get thrown out of every game.
It would be pretty much, yeah. You'd be. I don't even know. It's wild to think about, but yeah, he was certainly a lot of fun. I have some good Burfict memories, a couple good wins over SC at Sun Devil Stadium where he had big games. But yeah, that was definitely, he was a heat-seeking missile. That's an appropriate way to describe it.
You mentioned earlier, and I wanted to get to this before we start talking about the matchups, which if y'all are here for all the stats and all that research, you're not going to get that. You're just going to get my opinion on the game. But the group of five, they've got to have their own thing. And here's why. Because they'll bring up 2007 Boise when they beat Oklahoma. They'll bring up, what year was it, 16, 17 UCF. And then they'll bring up one more, a little more recently. But here's the thing. Those schools don't exist anymore. Those teams don't exist anymore. And this is what I mean by that. As soon as the players that made those teams so good, they did a great job of recruiting, they did a great job of development, what's going to happen now?
They're going to leave and go get more money.
They're going to go to the...
I just saw the Nevada guy. I've seen multiple coaches say in their recruiting for the high school kids, they say, hey, you're going to come here, you're going to get great coaching, you're going to tear it up, and then you're probably going to leave and go to Oregon and make $3 million or $2 million or $1 million or whatever. And everybody's a JUCO now. Outside of Alabama and the true blue bloods of the sport, Arizona State, I love it, but we're probably to some degree a JUCO too. I just saw Kenny Dillingham say the other day, we need our guy that can write a check for $20 million and change this whole dynamic. And I hope he's out there. I hope he's out there for ASU's sake. But I also understand people going, Coach, come on, man. The tuition keeps going up for the regular students, and we're talking about $20 million for football players too. So I hope he's out there, and I hope it happens for ASU because I love it. But I personally would be ecstatic about a group of five playoff.
Oh, yeah, it'd be great football. Because my Troy Trojans would be in it every year.
And that would be wonderful. And I'll tell you another thing. My dad... I've talked to you. My dad played at Arizona State in the heyday in the 70s when ASU 70 they were 11-0, 71 they were 11-1, 72 they're 10-2, 73 11-1, 75 12-0. We were the Boise State before Boise State, and my dad played line, and I always ask him because in 75 we finished 2 to Oklahoma, which Sporting News named us national champions, which with all these schools claiming national championships, I'm not sure why ASU doesn't claim that one 50 years later. I don't see the point of not claiming it. But anyhow, I asked him, and he played line. I go, what do you think was the difference in those teams? He goes, I'll be the first to tell you. Our skill kids were NFL guys. We had J.D. Hill, Danny White. I mean, we had skill guys that were NFL guys that were as good as anywhere in the country. We were not, and I played this position, we were not what those schools were up front. And I still think there's a little bit of degree to that as well.
Well, here's the thing, and even if you did let them in, if they played it 100 times, they may win one of those games. And this is the point. Do they deserve that chance? Because they didn't play the same schedule those other teams played. And when Boise did their thing, you go back and look at their 2007 schedule. They played, they played somebody early in like late August, early September. They had an entire summer to prepare for them. Then they played the pure dregs of the Mountain West or whatever conference they were in for the next 11 games. And then they had a month to get ready for Oklahoma. Meanwhile, Oklahoma's playing at that time Nebraska. They're playing Oklahoma. They're playing Texas. They're playing Texas A&M because that was the Big 12. They're playing Oklahoma State, which is a big rivalry game. They played somebody out of conference that year that was really, really good. They're not playing. It's not apples to apples, and people can say whatever they want to say. And don't bring up March Madness. It's a different game. Basketball is a tournament sport. It's meant for that.
It's a different game because one guy can make an unbelievable difference. Whereas in football, even I forgot I saw somebody one time talk about the biggest, most impactful player in an NFL scenario can only affect the point spread by 1 to 2 points. Think about that. We're talking about like the most impactful guys can impact it by 2 or so points in the point spread because it's such a team game. And I don't want our group of I'm not bagging on them at all. They shouldn't be as good because they don't have the resources.
Correct.
They should not be as good, and they're not putting as much money in because they don't have as much money. So all that I'm saying is I want to see more football, and I want to see more evenly matched football. If you had Texas, and I'm a little biased to the Big 12 still now that ASU's in there. If you had, I think BYU, everybody talks about Texas and Notre Dame being in. BYU definitely deserve consideration as well. They played a tough schedule, and now as the cookie crumbles, so to speak, they're going to be a big-time player because the CEO of Cookie Crumble has decided that he's going to make it so. And just like Texas Tech has this big donor now, I forget the gentleman's name now, but it's all about money. So I'm not bagging the group of four. I just want to see more evenly matched football.
Yeah, and this was mentioned a couple of years ago. What is it called? It's they use the Arabs are using with the golf tournament.
Live?
The golf, yeah, live.
Yeah.
And people are upset about it because what they're doing is they're taking that dirty money and they're cleaning it up. It's called sports washing or something like that, where they put money into things. That's the reason F1 is taken off and it's way past Indy and NASCAR now, because people like that putting all the money into it. What's going to happen when a big Saudi oil guy offers Arizona State $25 million a year and all they want is their name on the back of the stadium? Sun Devil Stadium, whatever.
Yeah.
Emirates. You see it in Premier League soccer. You see that happen where you say, what is that company? And it's some company down in the Middle East and what they're doing, they're whitewashing. I forget what it's called, but you said you're waiting for that $20 million donor. They're out there. They just want their name on something. And who are you making and I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about just everybody in general.
Of course.
Are you going to sell your soul to get that money and put that name on there and come to find out they're doing something else? It's not exactly clean money. Hey, what's going to happen when the mafia starts putting money into Rutgers?
Yeah, absolutely. I had never been. My brother-in-law is from New Jersey, and I was unfamiliar. I've been on the West Coast my whole life. We came to a stop on a bridge, and I was like, we have to pay to cross the bridge? I was like, is this a joke? Is this like a real thing? I really have to give money to cross the bridge?
There's an ogre under the bridge. He's going to eat you if you don't pay.
I was in shock.
But yeah,
well, Coach, we'll talk all day unless we get into breaking down some of the CFP. So
okay.
I think we should probably get into that. And I'll take it first. I've been excited. Obviously, when you saw the matchups, I was really excited about this matchup, this Oregon-Texas Tech matchup in the Orange Bowl. Super excited to watch. You got a Pac-12 legacy school. You got a Big 12 school, Texas Tech. I think, and I know you're going to – Alabama's on this side of the bracket, so I hope I don't fire you up, but I think the winner of this game gets to the final. I don't entirely know who's going to win this game, but I think the winner gets to the final. I could be dead wrong on that, but that's kind of my upset type special. I was looking, and we've talked about this, Coach. You're talking about, I believe, both coordinators with Will Stein heading out to be a head coach at Kentucky, unless I'm mistaken, and Tosh Lupoi heading out to Cal, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Both coordinators leaving Oregon. They made it so, and I'm sure this is some of their financial resources at work. Those guys are at the college football playoff, but are they giving you everything they have? Will Stein took over for Kenny Dillingham as the OC at Oregon. Really enjoyed some of his offenses looking back with Bo Nix, all these guys. And one of the things about all these teams in the tournament, ridiculously high completion percentages across the board. So you got to look at some of the stuff they're doing scheme-wise. Dante Moore has an extremely high completion percentage. They do a lot of alerts on the backside of runs and passes that get them into some easy completions in some of the things that I was looking at, studying them wise. Oregon does some double move stuff. That was some pretty cool things in there. Really good running back, Noah Whittington, Davidson, 13 rushing touchdowns for Davidson. One of the things about Oregon I thought was cool in breaking them down, and this is I'm going to get us down a rabbit hole again. It is personal pet peeve of mine because everything's in the gun. It's all spread. Oregon does a lot of things with multiple tight ends. They got 2 tight ends with big numbers, Malik Benson and Kenyon Sadiq. Sadiq with 8 touchdowns on the year. But a lot of bigger personnel groupings, which has certainly been a trend lately. Why is everything spread just because it's in the shotgun? If you're in 12 personnel or 13 personnel, why is that the spread offense if everybody's in tight? I don't know. Can you help me with this?
No, just because you're in 2 wide doesn't mean you're in the spread. I mean, 2 wide was around long before Hal Mummy and Leach. They just took it and made it something else. And then Franklin monetized the thing and put a name on it, and but everything's shotgun is not spread. I agree. And you mentioned tight ends. I kind of want to see Oregon and Georgia at some point play because they both use so many tight end sets. Kind of a lap over here between my side of it and yours. Georgia's become tight end U. And by the way, they just signed the best 2 tight ends in the state of Georgia.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I saw somebody the other day post something. It was Dan Blackburn who he reposted something we had on the show, and he said the best high school football in Arizona is in Georgia, period. I don't know. You'd have a tough time arguing, and I know the Texas people anybody that was listening just turned it off. And I don't know. I know there's great football in all of those places, but certainly an argument to be made by that.
There was a 4A school in Georgia back that hung like 60 or 70 on a state champion. Somebody just won it in Texas in the big classifications, and they were only a 4A. And they're not even. They're at best they're the 4th best team in the state of Georgia, behind Buford that won it, and then Carrollton that got in the 6A, and then Thomas County Central, and then probably Creekside is probably the 4th best team overall in the state of Georgia, and they're just a 4A. They beat the snot out of a big school down in Florida that just won the state championship last year early on. They beat that big team in Texas back about week 3. I don't know if they won it or not, but they were in the finals in one of the bigger classifications in Texas. And here's a school that's a medium-sized school in the state of Georgia. Right now, just because you take it seriously, and just because, using our term from down here, it means more, doesn't mean it's necessarily better. I'm sure that, there's 1A schools that take football a lot more seriously than 6A schools that couldn't stay on the field with them. And the state of Texas, no doubt, takes their football very seriously. But right now, there's several things that play into this. And I've said this before on other venues. People ask me all the time, because I've coached in both states, which one's better. And I said, well, I wouldn't say one's better, but one's bigger. Because there's so many more people in Georgia. It's one of the biggest population-wise in the deep South. Florida's a little bigger because of South Florida. But they take it serious, as Alabama does, but they've got more money to put into it. Their coaches are so well paid. It's unbelievable what the coaches are making in the state of Georgia. And it's one of the reasons when I retired that I came across the river and coached a little bit closer to home, believe it or not, because of the money. I said, I'm happy, I'm fine, I'm going to keep coaching part-time. And they showed me the money And I was like, oh, okay, where do I sign up? And that was at a 1A school. And dude, we got 2A schools with artificial turf with coaches making over 100 grand a year. 2A schools with artificial turf
Other
with
states
coaches. I had a
are
coach
blown
offer
away
me a
by
job last winter. Last winter, a guy offered me a job at a 2A school to come be his offensive coordinator. And I just had my stroke. That was like in December. I had my stroke in March that you and I talked about before. And I told him, I said, I can't do it. He goes, we'll make it worth your while. Dude, at a 2A school, just to be an OC, 95 grand.
That's unreal. That's just unreal. And obviously, if we're talking about West Coast wise, you're talking about numbers, sheer numbers. I'm sure the best in California can play with anybody. I would
We're not
imagine.
talking about the best now. We're talking about overall.
Yeah, exactly.
Because somebody got that argument the other day on Twitter or X, talking about they named off like 4 schools in Southern California. And I said, okay, name off a school that doesn't exist by recruiting.
That's fair
It
too.
doesn't exist by recruiting. And as well, the public schools recruit too. Not to the degree those Southern California schools do.
I don't know all the specifics, but I would generally, from what I have heard, tend to agree with that.
Their rosters need hometowns.
Yeah. Well, we played Brophy in the state playoffs in basketball the other day, and I've never seen this before. Brophy has an SID, a sports information director. I do the public addresses I've talked to you about for our basketball teams. He hands me the roster to announce their basketball team, and it has all of the junior highs that these kids were at, and there was like 5 states out of the 12. 5 states out of the 12. I was like, you got to be kidding me. This is unreal. And anyway, getting back to Oregon, linebacker Bryce Botcher, 103 tackles. Tatum Tuote, with 7 sacks. And looking at their scheme, a lot of post-rail stuff, some spacing stuff, some different stuff to get that high completion percentage from Oregon. We've already alluded to some of the heavier personnel packages. They also do some good stuff with just hitch seam, which everybody, I don't know about everybody in America, but most teams in America probably have hitch seam in their playbook. A lot of people call it Hoss, whatever you want to call it, some variations off that with the juke that the Patriots made so famous. Defensively, pretty versatile defensive scheme. They do a good job mixing some 4-2-5, some 3-3. Obviously, Dan Lanning, defensive background. Wild to think Dan Lanning and Kenny Dillingham were both in GA-type roles at Arizona State with Todd Graham. Say what you want about Todd Graham, and I personally loved him. Guy could identify talent coaching-wise. He had Gus Malzahn as a coordinator. His record, obviously, right now, people wouldn't say, but Mike Norvell, I think, is an outstanding football coach. Obviously, struggled a little bit the last couple of years, but interesting to think about that.
Where's Todd Graham now?
Excuse me?
Where's Todd Graham now?
He is coaching at TCU. Obviously, didn't end well in Hawaii. He's a little bit more old school. I'm not sure how that would work in this era when guys just leave at more money. He's just a little bit more old school. I don't know how that equates nowadays. It's an interesting topic. Texas Tech offensive coordinator Mac Leftwich came over from Texas State. Tons of fast screens. They got defensive coordinator Shiel Wood. They got the number 1 rush defense. And this thing about Texas Tech, they have an SEC defensive line. Not many teams outside of the SEC or Big Ten do. They're one of the ones that they got guys up front that are straight dudes across the board. Their only loss this year to the Sun Devils, their starting quarterback, Baron Morton, was out that game. He's got 22 touchdowns, 4 picks, a ridiculous 162.5 QB rating. Really talented running back, Cameron Dickey. 3 receivers and a tight end with over 500 yards, so they spread the football around. Some outstanding defensive players. I saw something the other day. Somebody said the People's Heisman, Jacob Rodriguez, really talented player. 117 tackles, 4 picks, 7 forced fumbles. Really talented young man. And like I said, their defensive line, I think, is what sets them apart from and the Big 12's got some great teams, but not as many as the SEC and Big Ten, obviously. Texas Tech is the exception, and I think they're the exception because of money. They're the exception because a big oil guy decided they're going to be in that league, and it's a fascinating matchup. If I had to give a prediction, I think Oregon wins a really close one, but I could be swayed either way on this ball game. I think it's really going to be a very entertaining Orange Bowl.
I do too. I love Coach McGuire, Joey McGuire. I like what he does out there. And, interesting, remember last year, all 4 of the teams that had a bye lost in the second round.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, and Oregon didn't play a game this past weekend. They had a scrimmage. They just got the reps in. And literally, it looked like one of the SEC games we play early in the year and right before the rivalry week. That's what it looked like. And people say, well, you see the score. Look what they did the second half. Dude, they were playing second, third stringers second half, Oregon was. It was one of those, I'll give you $1 million to come here and get your butt beat games. And that's what we got to eliminate and give those guys like JMU and them an opportunity to win something with like-minded teams. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole again, but that's why. And Oregon is going to beat Texas Tech. And it's going to be because I guarantee you, they got a better scrimmage in this weekend than Texas Tech did against their scout team.
That could definitely be the case. Yeah. Like I said, really enjoyed watching both these teams scheme-wise. I think Mac Leftwich does a good job. A little more, you see a lot of blending. Texas Tech blends that 4-2-5 with some 3-4 principles. Very aggressive. That BYU game is 13-7, and then they force like 3 turnovers there late and end up making it a blowout in that game. I also enjoyed a lot of fast screens you see from Texas Tech. It'll be interesting to see that kind of scheme stuff play out. They motion into some slip screens, do that a really good job motioning into those slip screens, which has been a big part of so many teams' games. Incidentally, I'm really excited to see Florida next year with Buster Faulkner as their OC going over there, because I think that'll be a lot of fun to follow. But we're both in agreement. Oregon wins a tight one in this one, my opinion. Moving on, Coach, you do whichever game you want to do next.
Okay, let me say this. I'm going to save the before I get into this. Roll Tide, but I do think they're going to break the streak of the bye teams losing. I think Indiana's going to get them. I think that it'll be less than a score, and if it's more than a score, it would be Indiana on top. I just don't think Alabama can run the ball. Indiana has got like the no-name defense. I mean, I watched them play a few times. I said, "Who's that? Who's that?" That's the first time I'd heard their names, and anywhere. He just does such a good job. And here's I wouldn't know this is irony. I guess it is irony. I think Alabama's going to get beat by the number 1 student of Saban, the one who is the most like Saban. If you compared it to the Bible, Kirby is Peter to Jesus, but who wrote most of the New Testament? Paul. And Kurt is Paul. He's Kirby. That's just, I really believe that. Watch him speak. It's like he's Saban 10 years ago. He's exactly 10 years younger than Saban. And I was hoping he would get the job back when it happened. And everybody's like, well, they're going to hire him. He's at JMU. And I was like, I said, okay, but all right. I just know good coaching when I see it, and I think Alabama fans are going to be sitting there going like, the process bit us. Because I don't think you go back and take all of Saban's disciples, none of them have done the process to the degree that Cignetti has done the process. I mean, he is, and continued it. And somebody said, well, why did he leave Alabama? He took a pay cut when he left Alabama in 2011. A lot of folks don't know that. A lot of folks don't know he's the one that recruited 6 first-round draft picks at Alabama. He's the one that recruited Julio Jones, Mark Ingram, He's the one that did all that stuff. And they went undefeated in '08, got beat by Florida in the championship game, then went undefeated and won the whole thing in '09, and he left before they won the 2 in a row. But he went to a little bitty school, IUP, and took a pay cut. Why? Because he knew what he wanted to do. He wanted to go hardcore process. He could not go to a Division I program, let's just say Tulane, okay, and do what he wanted to do because he didn't have the cred to do it. He didn't have, I'm Curt Cignetti. He'd never been a college head coach. He had to go to a smaller school and do it his way to prove it would work, and he just kept moving up from that point on. And you give you, going back to about money, even in 2011, the assistants at Alabama, and he wasn't even a coordinator now, he was an assistant, position coach, wide receivers even. He took a pay cut to be a head coach at a smaller college. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, I don't understand for the life of me why Michigan isn't talking about trying to hire Tony Annese out of Ferris State. I don't get it at all. And these guys saying it's different, but that's assuming this guy's been a winner every level he's been at. That's assuming he couldn't figure it out. Of course he could figure it out. They were going after Dillingham. I'm like, hey, you could spend way less money on this guy, and he is competitive as it gets. And I think he'd be a home run hire for them, and you don't hear it being discussed at all.
This is not a hot take. I don't mean it to be a hot take. People may hear it as a hot take, but this isn't a hot take. Now, you can say I'm prejudiced, you can say I'm partial, but it's not a hot take. There's a coach somewhere, a high school coach somewhere in America, more than one, that went 5-5, 6-4 this year, that are better football coaches than some of the guys we just saw on TV this past Saturday. Coaching is relative. It's relative to the talent you have available to you.
Of course.
And Annese has won at every level going back. He won at high school, he won at JUCO, and he's won at Division II. And he's won at a high level, and he's won with a system. He's got talent. Of course he's got talent. But it's his system. He brings those kids in. And I've been trying to get him on my podcast now ever since I started the podcast. Because my offense that I ran when I was the OC was
a lot of similarities.
Oh, that's what attracted me to him. I didn't do it because of him. Somebody said, what you do is a little bit like, have you heard of Ferris State? And I said, yeah, I've heard of them. So I would YouTube them, and I went, holy crap, now I've got God knows how many clips saved on my computer of them the last 5 or 6 years and doing similar stuff. And I just think you're exactly right, but coaching is relative to the talent that's available to you. And I think Cignetti has proven that when he made the move. And I think that's why he did it. And that's why I think they will beat Alabama. But going back to it, Alabama can't run the ball. And Roll Tide, and I ain't been an Alabama fan since Saban show. I've been an Alabama fan since birth. They've won 13 national titles in my lifetime, y'all. I love the Crimson Tide. But because I'm a football coach, I'm reasonable about it. Will I be tickled that Alabama wins? Yes, I'll be excited. It wouldn't have hurt my feelings if they hadn't made the tournament, made the playoffs, because I didn't think they played that well. I didn't think they could win it because if you can't run the football, I don't think you can win it. Sooner or later you run out of field.
Yeah.
And they've got to win how many games? They got to win 3 or 4. 3.
They got to win 3 more, and they've already won 1.
Yeah, and you can do that and the game last week. People talk about, well, Oklahoma outplayed them. Well, go back and look at the first time they played when Oklahoma won. Alabama beat the crap out of them statistically.
Absolutely.
If you look just at the stat sheet and not the scoreboard, you would then say, how bad did Alabama beat them? And they flipped the script. Oklahoma outplayed them, but Oklahoma turned the ball over just like Alabama did, and that's what happened. And so what goes around comes around. I don't apologize for that win unless Oklahoma's willing to apologize for their win back a month ago. But I do think Indiana's going to win. They can run the ball, they can throw the ball, and their defense, and they're the best team in the history of college football that the majority of fans know jack crap about. Because, y'all, I study the game, and I'm sitting there watching. I'm going, who's that guy? Who's that guy? And only hardcore football fans even heard of the quarterback that just won the Heisman before this season started.
Incidentally, one of my favorite speeches too. So humble, easy guy to root for. Seems like.
Oh yeah, and he'll have a great. Do you know this is going to be the third cycle in a row they're going to get their quarterback out of the portal?
It doesn't surprise me in the least. Doesn't surprise. As an ASU fan, obviously we're losing Sam Levitt. All the positions are leaving in the portal. The quarterback one though is rampant.
Now, what do you think, Levitt? What do you think he's leaning toward?
The rumor mill out there is churning. I've heard LSU's a possibility. Unfortunately, I've heard Texas Tech's a possibility. That's the one I think would sting most ASU fans, is him going in the conference. If he's in the SEC, we don't have to deal with it.
Yeah.
So, but if he's in the Big 12, that's going to hurt.
Yeah, but now Indiana, and here's the thing I think about, and to get away from the game and just talk about them, he really is doing this the last 2 years without a lot of known talent. What's going to happen this year, now that he's done it 2 years in a row, and potentially is going to, we'll see what happens, play for the thing, he's going to start getting people in that everybody's already heard of. It's going to be like Ohio State, pulling those players in from Alabama and from the other parts of the SEC, which, by the way, that was the most SEC national champion that didn't come out of the SEC ever last year.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with you.
But Indiana's they're here to stay, y'all. He's got a little age on him, like he's a year older than me, but he's in great shape. And look, Saban did it until last year before last, and if he can do it another 7, 8, 10 years, I can see him really running through college football like a virus, like he's been doing. If he starts getting the name, he
does it 10 years, he's ahead of almost anybody in terms of longevity. I mean, even Saban was 17 years, I believe. You don't see the Bear Bryant like tenures. They just don't happen anymore.
No, not at all. Not at all. All right, so that's my pick. I think it'd be a close game because Alabama's defense is good. I mean, they're no joke. I was surprised that his name didn't come up, and I'm just drawing a blank on his name right now. I'm looking at him in my eyes, and what a great job he's done at Alabama and got heat like everybody did. But if you want to be the most unpopular man in the state of Alabama, become the defensive coordinator at Alabama. The last one that they didn't dog out was Kirby, and but Tosh Lapoy was the DC at Alabama.
I didn't even realize that.
Oh, by the way, Tosh Lapoy is going home to Cal because he's from Concordia. He played at De La Salle.
No kidding.
Yep.
No kidding.
I read that book back in the fall when the game stood tall. Tosh Lapoy played for Lattiseau.
Oh my goodness.
He was in the streak.
Wow. Well, and obviously he knows how to win. I tend to agree with you. I think Indiana wins a close one. I'm really interested to see the first quarter. I'm interested to see the layoff. Does it affect them? Does it not? Because last year it appeared obvious. All those teams, it appeared there was something going on there in the layoff. I'm interested to see that part of it, but I think they win that one as well. Cotton Bowl matchup, Ohio State and Miami. Another fun one. Obviously, outstanding quarterback for the Buckeyes. 31 touchdowns, 6 picks, 3,300 yards, 78% completion percentage. Absolutely wild. Bo Jackson in the backfield, 1,000-yard rusher. C.J. Donaldson, 10 touchdowns. The unbelievably talented Jeremiah Smith. Some really good tight ends in this one, too. Enjoyed looking at some of their scheme stuff. A lot of squeeze sets. Some cool shot plays that we saw against Michigan off play action that they do. Some sail concept stuff off play action. Nothing revolutionary, but all really good stuff. Defensively, do a really good job mixing some tight front stuff, some 4-2-5. They use some disguise and adaptability out of that. Really talented linebacker, Sonny Styles. Arvell Reese, Caden Curry, defensive end with 11 sacks. Offensive coordinator, another situation. You got Ryan Hartline from going to South Florida. So another situation we've alluded to here, obviously Matt Patricia on the defensive side, do some cool stuff out of the RPO game with inside zones, curl flat stuff. Like I said, nothing necessarily revolutionary. I love how they slip the tight ends off multiple plays out of there, which has been one of the big trends I've seen in college, those easy completions. We tried to do a little bit last year. We got a really talented tight end and a pretty good little slot guy. I got to do a better job teaching the slip part because we did not do a good enough job with that. It seems like we were like, let's run into the defensive end out there. But you see so many of these guys complete some of those easy high percentage stuff. Ohio State littered with talent across the field. Miami, a really likable team, obviously. Carson Beck, talented quarterback, 10 interceptions on the year. He does that in this one, it won't be close. Really unbelievably talented wide receiver. I saw their offensive coordinator, Shannon Dawson, out of Houston, has some air raid roots, but obviously with Coach Mirabal has added some heavy influence in their, they run a lot of duo, a lot of inside zone, a couple little man schemes I saw them blocking as well. But one of the things I thought was interesting that I wanted to get your take on that he talked about, really talented receiver Malachi Toney. They've lined him up everywhere. Quarterback, tight end. They say he's in all their personnel packages. He's 4-7 throwing the ball. He's got 20 carries on the year. He's had 89 touchdowns for just under 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns as well. But one of the things I thought was interesting that he said is he's in every personnel group so nobody can get a beat on where he is. Where he said package guys, he called them, guys that are in maybe those 12 personnel, 13 personnel, those type of things. Once that's the cat's out of the bag, there's a few little things you can do out of those personnel groupings, but because they utilize him everywhere, it makes it difficult to defend. I thought that was a really interesting take. Their defensive coordinator, Corey Heatherman from Minnesota, really talented, 4 defensive linemen with over 2.5 sacks, including Akeem Mesidor, who had 1.5 against against A&M. But I thought that was an interesting take, and I wanted to get your take on that. System guys, or not system, but personnel guys, as opposed to a guy like Malachi Toney that they can line up everywhere.
Oh, you got to love kids like the Debo Samuel kind of guys. And that's the way they're using him like that. And Debo putting him everywhere. And you got to love a kid like that. You got to love a kid like that if you're the guy that's got him on your team. But imagine this. Last year when Miami was scoring 40 points a game because they had to, because they were hemorrhaging points, and now they got the different coordinator in and they held A&M to 3, which, by the way, those of y'all thought Notre Dame should have been in, that A&M team couldn't get but 3 points against Miami. Didn't they score like 42 or something like that against Notre Dame? Wasn't it really, it was and I know that was 3 months ago, but we got to count the whole season. We just can't cherry pick the games we want to talk about.
Well, that's what used to make college football so fun, is the regular season was more important than anything else out there.
Yeah, and it's the reason why nobody watches college basketball until March.
Exactly. All my U of A friends, and they beat us in football this year, which stinks, but I'm like, hey, it's December. I don't want to hear about your number one basketball team because no one cares. Tell me in March, please.
Oh, yeah, because ESPN has turned basketball into a postseason sport, and whoever's in charge in some smoke-filled room somewhere is trying to do the same thing to college football.
Yeah, interesting perspective, definitely. As much as I like them, and I like the Miami coaching staff more now, knowing that Mario Cristobal was clicking your slides there, Coach.
Oh, listen,
and Alex Mirabal did that great stuff with Coach Tatum in the summer. Really likable staff. I love them. I don't think they stay within 2 touchdowns of the Buckeyes.
I'm taking Miami because I got to go with my old teacher's aide. I can't let I'm going with them, and I just think their defense is going to do well enough. But I will say this: if Beck, he's the wild card for Miami, and I don't know him personally, but I do know coaches on the staff at Georgia. He was never really the leader, and I don't think he's the leader at Miami. And I think you have an issue when your quarterback is not the leader. I'm not knocking his talent, and I don't know why that is, but I could be wrong. But I think he's the way. If he has a good game and getting the ball to their, what's his name, the little fella again?
Malachi Tony, and obviously their running back Fletcher was phenomenal in that game against A&M.
But now I'm gonna tell you this: if college football was a beauty pageant, and Miami came walking across down the runway, they'd win the national championship. That is a good-looking football team from a coaching perspective. Look at those athletes. Holy cats, man. They may be the most athletic team in college football just looking at them. I mean, it looks like they live in the weight room. And they look better than A&M did. Just, I mean, on the hoof. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
100%. Coach Wiz, who I used to talk about, used to say that all the time. And he had a big-time college experience, and he said if you went somewhere and didn't know who you were recruiting, you were just watching practice from a distance, didn't know who you were recruiting after 5-10 minutes, you probably shouldn't be not even that, but maybe a minute, and didn't know who you were recruiting, you maybe shouldn't be recruiting them.
There you go. Yeah, you're looking.
I agree with you. Carson Beck's a wild card. I would love to say they're in it. I think Ohio State's grumpy like they were last year, and I think they pull away in this one.
Well, they got beat, in the championship game, and just like last year, they got beat by Michigan and missed the championship game, and so they came in a little salty to prove, and that could be a turning point. But they still got the bye. And so we'll see what happens with that. But Miami didn't have a scrimmage. Miami, that was a bloodbath last week.
Absolutely.
Tell me you don't know football when you think a 10-3 game was a bad game just by looking at the score.
It was one of the more entertaining games of the season.
It was beautiful. It was the last one I can remember like that was the famous Alabama LSU 9-6 game.
Yes,
when
sir.
LSU won. And everybody said, what a horrible game. I said, oh, my God, it was a beautiful game. Low scoring doesn't mean the offense is bad, y'all. Defense gets a vote in football.
100%.
This is not the NBA.
I agree. I thought it was a very entertaining game.
Yes.
There were a lot of very entertaining games Saturday. That was, I think, one of the better ones out there. But Ole Miss, Georgia, Coach, dying to hear your thoughts on this one. Going to be an interesting ball game.
Yeah, and you know what? It used to be back in the day in the Sugar Bowl when it was still a Southern Bowl. Sometimes, because back in the day, and like back in the day when Notre Dame didn't go to bowls, this isn't the first time they haven't gone to a bowl. They never went to a bowl until what?
In the old
1970s.
Days, yeah.
I'm old enough to remember that. And I couldn't understand, how can they get voted national champions if they don't even play in a bowl?
They didn't go to a bowl.
Because they chose not to. We're talking for decades. But anyway, back in the day, all the SEC teams didn't play each other. You had 10 teams. They only played like 6 or 7 games. And every now and then, you'd have 2 undefeated SEC teams. Heck, Sugar Bowl, bring them both in. You're talking about, and playing the Sugar Bowl, you're talking about a money bonanza, bringing 2 big-time colleges into New Orleans on New Year's, and you filling the place up because everybody's a few hours away,
Oh, they would be filling it up.
Ole Miss and Georgia have never played each other in the Sugar Bowl. Have never played each other in the Sugar Bowl. Alabama, Ole Miss have. Georgia's played, I think Georgia and Alabama even played in the Sugar Bowl 100 years ago. Because Georgia and Alabama used to hardly ever play, but every 4 or 5 years they'd play, back in the old days, back when I used to ride the football practice on a dinosaur. And so, and Ole Miss, they've only lost 1 game, and who beat them? It was Georgia, and Lane Kiffin had a 2-score lead in the 4th quarter and got beat. And Georgia, which and I live here now, and I have to literally put up with all the Bobo hate. I do not know why they don't like Mike Bobo in the state of Georgia. He played quarterback, for God's sake, for some of their better teams back in the day. His son is a friggin' All-American center, and I think the bye week did him well because he's been banged up. Coach Bobo's son is the center, And I don't know what they're talking about. It's like it's like being an Alabama DC. Being the Georgia OC is the most unpopular job in Georgia, and being the Alabama DC is the most unpopular. But now this time, this is for all the stakes. Ole Miss played well enough. If their defense could have got a couple of stops in the second half, they'd have beat Georgia back early in the year. And so this may be the best game on January 1st. Because it was a good game before. But now you've given Kirby all this time to prepare. He went back and looked. He saw what they did. And according to Coach Golden, Charlie Weiss Jr. has been calling the plays all year. It's been his offense all year, is what Al Golden said. And so he knows what he's up against. Now, to me, the wild card in this game is going to be Trinidad Chambliss, the quarterback for Ole Miss, who came from Ferris State.
Ferris State.
Yeah. And Ole Miss, they're going to run they have become RPOU, and Charlie Weiss is going to keep doing. Charlie Weiss Jr., that's the former Notre Dame coach. I know you know this coach, but some folks may not. Charlie Weiss, that coached for the Patriots and Notre Dame. It's his son. He's very, very intelligent. There's going to be an abundance of RPOs. Georgia's thing is their quarterback has really grown into that. A lot of people looked at it early on. Gunnar Stockton, who is a Georgia boy, he's from North Georgia. Excuse me. He has really grown into it. There was a lot of people that felt like he kind of got it because he was the next man up. And because last year when he went in for an injured Beck, they ended up getting beat. But I don't think that was on him. I think he's grown into it. He's a little bit like the former quarterback that won when they won both the national championships, Bennett. He's a little like him in that he leads that team. He is the unabashed leader of Georgia. I do believe he's a coach's kid too. And so that kind of, a little bit of background on that maybe that's why he is a leader. He's not the kind of guy you're going to see probably play. He's not going to be a Tom Brady in the league, just like Bennett wasn't, the quarterback before. But he's going to be that dude for Georgia. Look for this. The quarterback that has the best game between Ole Miss and UGA, between Trinidad Chambliss and Gunnar Stockton, that's who wins the game. I think those two guys right there, and I know they don't play against each other. We know that. But that's the difference. And I really don't have a feel for it because both of them have good defenses. Both of them have good offenses, but yet there was a 43-38 game or something like that earlier in the year. And again, they approach it from two different ways. Now Georgia to me throws more of the run screen options and stuff than they do true RPOs. And then Ole Miss runs the true RPOs because Georgia uses so many tight ends. And the formations that you like the squeeze sets and things like that.
Coach, I don't know. One of the things about Bobo is, and I got to study this, I haven't broken down the tape or anything, but every time I watch them, I love some of his red zone short yardage type stuff out of those formations that he does. And that was one of the areas definitely we got to do a better job in. There was times we didn't finish in the red zone this year, which I think we win a couple more ball games if we're able to. But I've really liked some of the stuff he did in that regard. And this game I'm rooting as a loyalty type guy. I want to see Ole Miss go to the national championship game bad.
You want to screw Lane Kiffin?
Absolutely bad. I don't think it happens. I think Georgia gets this one, but I'm rooting hard for Ole Miss.
Well, think about this now. Georgia's senior class is 51-5 with this, and they were there for the second national championship, so they've got one national title under their belt and 3 SEC championships, which would have been 4, but Saban got in the way of one of those. And Kirby's defense, I think I'm with you. They're going to play well enough. Mike Bobo's going to have a few wrinkles in, and that's one of the things Bobo does, because I've watched him play a lot. Again, I'm here. Is he runs the same system, of course, But he'll bring every big game, he's going to throw something at the other team that they haven't seen. And I think, and this is going to sound crazy, but you'll probably understand it. I know you'll understand it. I think using those tight ends gives you more options as an offensive coach. I think going 2x2 and 3x1 actually limits you. You know, I've talked to DCs all the time that say, like, well, we know what we're going to get when we get spread. We know, because once you spread it out, there's not a lot you can do. But when you tighten things up, and you call them squeeze sets and things like that, and you do the compacted sets, you got your full running game available to you. And you can run all those passes. People think you can't. You can run Y sail with tight ends. You can run smash concepts and have 2 tight ends in the game. All the air raid things, you can do most any of them with tight ends in the game. But you can't do all the running game stuff without tight ends in the game. So I think from an offensive coordinator's point of view, and don't get me wrong, I love spread sets. You know, but
I like creating extra gaps too.
Oh yeah. I mean, and those gaps still exist, but they're way out there, and they're not really run threat gaps.
Yeah.
But when you bring those guys in, and they can block, and the culture that they've created at Georgia with tight ends, and like I said, dude, in arguably the best high school state in the country, they just got the best 2 tight ends. And the Walls kid from up around Milledgeville, his daddy was a fullback for Ritt, I believe. He may have been for Don. And then they got the big Prothrow kid from Bowden, and he's like 6'6", 235, 240, and he's a lean-looking 235, 240. And when he gets in the weight room up there and they put him on that training table, he may be a 250, 260-pound athlete because he moves like a gazelle at that size already. He scored 60-something touchdowns in his high school career playing tight end.
That's just insanity. I mean, that is absolutely wild. I gotta get a hold of some of that film, definitely. And I know this might not be a popular. Like I said, I'm rooting hard for Ole Miss, and I understand Charlie Weiss has called the plays and everything else. As much as I am a loyal, I think the swagger Lane brings. I think it brings something to the table. That confidence, that little, you just kind of want to wring his neck a little bit type of deal. I think that helps. And I think a lot of those Ole Miss teams fed off that. Incidentally, totally unrelated, but I was thinking about this while I was talking to you, Coach. You always have so many good stories. When I was at Red Mountain with Ron Wisniewski, he was telling a story about Mark Mangino, who everybody remembers, Kansas coach, big gentleman. He was out recruiting, and he had a donut, and he was going to the table, and this is a ways back, so I don't know if he had the cell phone, not the cell phone, or whatever, but he was asking the guy at the counter about directions to a certain place, and he goes, how do I get to 260 from here? And the guy goes, well, you can start by putting that donut back. I'll tell you that.
Wisniewski, that's the math genius you told me about.
It is, yeah. Absolutely.
I pay attention to you. You know, when they fired Mangino, that was also about the time they fired, and my dog's about to go crazy because my wife just pulled up in the front. The big guy that was at Tech and then went to Maryland. He was the Tech OC.
Oh, Friedgen.
Fridge.
I don't remember how to say it, but Ralph Fried something.
Yeah. You know, that year it was like college football declared war on obese football coaches. And I'm not trying to be funny. To me, it really was. I mean, I think they should have filed, and there were 2 or 3 others. They should have filed a class action lawsuit against colleges because Mangino was a genius. You know, he was the OC when Oklahoma won it back in 2000. But he was running Leach's offense.
Won 11 games at Kansas.
Yes, for crying out loud.
I believe in Orange Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. That's not easy.
It was like, okay, the first time you have a bad season, your fat butt's out of here. And that's what they did. And I'm not making fun of them being overweight. I'm just saying it wasn't fair that year because Friedgen was another offensive genius. Dude, he would line up and run wishbone, spread, all in the same game and be effective at it. It was just crazy watching Friedgen's offenses operate at Tech. It was just mind-blowing. But back to this game, UGA versus Ole Miss, I think UGA is going to win, and I think it's going to be tight. I think most of them would be tight. UGA could pull away late, but if I had to lay points, which I don't gamble, I'd say they're going to win by at least 5. And so my 4 winners for this weekend, Oregon, Miami, Indiana, Georgia. I think it's going to be.
I'm looking forward to watching all of them. I got Indiana. I have Oregon. We're both in agreement there. I have Ohio State, and I have Georgia. So I'm not going out as much a limb. I got 1-5, 2-3 on there as you are, but it's going to be fun to watch.
I just realized something as I was looking at my picks. I swear I didn't do this on purpose. I got the 4 Saban Tree guys in the Final Four.
You may be onto something there.
I didn't do it on purpose. I got Kirby playing Indiana.
Yeah.
And I've got Lanning playing Mario.
Well, this is, I'm telling you what, Coach, we banged out 70 minutes and it went by like that. Absolutely love anytime we get to chat and talk ball. And like I said, hopefully people enjoy this. And if they don't, I enjoyed the heck out of it. So
that's what I say all the time. I do my podcast and my YouTubes for me. If you get something out of it, good on you. But I'm going to keep doing them. I don't care what you do. I don't care.
I agree with you. This was an hour plus spent, well spent on my end. So thank you, Coach. We'll see you again next time for another edition Blue and Gold Gridiron Show. Thanks, folks.